Well, here's something that you didn't know. 2 of those special atomic bombs haven't gone off.
Welcome everyone to the Holistic Hipster channel. I'm your host, ALEXIS RIVERA. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you the ultimate full body mobility routine that I do prior to every single workout. Anyway guys, let's get into it. Now, before we begin, let me explain the difference between warming up and priming your body prior to a workout. Now, for the longest time, warming up was something that you did right before working out, and this consisted of either static stretching, or doing a light run on the treadmill, or maybe even just foam rolling. And a common reason for warming up was to prevent injury, but that's the least a warm-up should do. Now, your warm-up should also prime your body for your workout, that way your workout can be that much more effective. And then this is where priming comes in, because the act of priming will actually turn on your central nervous system and it will set the stage for the optimal recruitment patterns for those exercises that you're going to do. And what that means is you're going to immediately increase your functional range of motion, you're going to increase your strength output, and those two things will in turn create that much more of an effective workout. What I'm saying is that you can make your workout 10 to 20% more effective just by changing what you do before your workout. So now that I've explained all that, let's get into it. And to begin, I'm going to start with the neck cars. And cars are an FRC principle that teaches the nervous system how to activate and control the outer ranges of motion. And quick side note, your central nervous system will dictate everything physical that you do. This includes strength output as well as overall mobility. And here's the thing, we are all flexible in the terms of our mechanical makeup of our tissue. It's actually the central nervous system that needs to be convinced otherwise. Now, saying that, this FRC principle will expand our usable or functional range of motion of our neck. And to do a proper car, you're gonna want to create tension throughout your entire body. You see, the goal is to disassociate other body parts from compensating or from assisting during the movement. We're working a single joint here, not a joint plus the compensation of other joints. And for the neck, you're going to begin by tucking the chin down towards your chest and then slowly bringing that chin towards one shoulder. From there, your goal is to create the largest circle of your neck that you can possibly create. And you're doing this while keeping the shoulders square, limiting the compensation from other body parts. And next up are the shoulder cars, or the articulations of the glenohumeral joint. And for this, we're going to begin by elevating the arm above the head. Quick note, if your body lacks proper shoulder mobility, then your back may start to arch in order to allow your shoulder to compensate to be able to go above your head. Okay, so once your arm passes your ear, or when you can't go any further with that straight arm, you want to begin by rotating or winding that arm as you continue to reach back. Again, without rotation of the shoulders or hips, we don't want any other joints or body parts to assist here. Again, this is worth noting, be square as able. Then slowly reverse with control back to center. Another side note, if you're struggling with this and overhead pressing is something that you do often, then you have no business overhead pressing until you fix your shoulder mobility. Because if your shoulder doesn't do what a human shoulder is supposed to do, your shoulder is going to get messed up. And next up are the scapular cars, or the articulation of the scapula, otherwise known as the shoulder blades. And to begin with the scapular cars, you're going to begin by extending both arms at 245-degree angles, or as a Y. Now, just through the use of the scapula, I'm going to create circles by elevating my scapula or my shoulders towards my ears, and then I'm going to go back towards my spine as I squeeze my shoulder blades together. And then from there, I'm going to go down towards my back pocket, and then the last portion of this is going forward where I separate the space in between my shoulder blades. And going through all those points, my goal is to create the most fluid, largest range of motion circle that I can possibly create. And again, you want to do all this without compensation from the neck, without movement of the spine, or without bending of the arm. And if you're new to this, then I highly recommend doing one side at a time to see if there's a difference between side to side, because typically there is going to be a difference. So I highly recommend doing them individually at first to assess where you differ from side to side. And the next exercise are the hip cars. And with the hip cars, I highly recommend holding on to something for balance here. Now, that might be a wall, it might be a foam roller, it might be a couch, or you can use what I'm using, which is a mobility stick from Stick Mobility. And I prefer to use the stick because through the use of gripping the stick and driving it into the floor, I can actually activate more muscle fibers to allow for a greater range of motion. And to begin the hip car, I'm going to start by flexing the hip or elevating the knee towards the body. Again, worth noting, all while keeping the supporting leg from bending. No compensation anywhere else, just the single hip joint will be doing all the work. Then from there, continue to open up the hip by rotating the knee outward, all while keeping the hips square and pointed forward. Then, when that knee can't travel any further, do your best to maintain the height of that knee as you bring that heel towards the sky. And when you can't go any further from there, bring that leg through to connect with the opposite leg. And then, as always, slowly reverse as you come back to the starting position. And again, it's just worth mentioning, the reason we're doing these cars is so we can activate those end ranges of motion that we're not used to activating. Because if you don't use the tissues that are responsible for reaching the end range of motion, that tissue will eventually go away. So it's oh so important that we actively tap into those end ranges so we can keep that range of motion. And now it is time for the last cars exercise of the mobility routine. And these are the ankle cars. Now for the ankle cars, you want to start by pointing your toes towards your shin, otherwise known as the 12 o'clock position. And then from there, you're going to go clockwise as you create the biggest circle as you possibly can, just like any other articulation. And when doing this, do your best to only allow rotation from the ankle. Naturally, your foot, your toes, and your knee are going to want to rotate, but as always, do your best to minimize that compensation or assistance. And quick note, what I've shown you guys is only a portion of the full cars morning routine. And if you're looking at learning a little more about what this full morning routine looks like with all the cars exercises, then check out Ian's video annotation right there. Click on that to learn a little more about a more in-depth version of the cars routine. And the next movement is the 90-90. And with the 90-90, we are internally rotating one hip and externally rotating the other hip to create these two 90-degree angles. This is where it gets its name. And the reason for this movement is that our hips are not used to being in this position. Much like the hip cars that we just completed, we want to explore those end ranges and we want to repattern the way our body moves for the better. And as for setup, to make sure that we're in the right position, I'm extending the arm out to the side and then lining up my femur and knee up with that arm. Again, just to make sure that the starting point is correct. By the way, if this is difficult for you, or you can't sit upright, or you need to prop yourself up with the assistance of your arm, then this is something that you need to do often. But saying that, you may most certainly prop yourself up with your arm if needed, especially in the beginning here. And with an upright posture, I'll be dropping my upper body to 3 different points on my body. And these 3 points are going to be my knee, my shin, and my ankle. And I'm just dropping my chest down to these 3 points as I explore these ranges at different points. And when doing this, I'll be noticing a deep stretch along my glute, along my piriformis, just opening up all the capsules in that area. And now it is time for the combat base position. And now the combat base is something I do for my ankle mobility or my ankle's ability to dorsiflex. And if you improve your ankle mobility, then I guarantee you'll get a way better looking squat. And the goal is to create the maximum amount of dorsiflexion by driving the knee over the toes, all while keeping the front of the foot flat and without allowing the hip to flare out. And once we're in this position, we actually want to create tension in the tibialis anterior, which is your shin. And to do this, you want to drive your tibia anterior or your shin into your foot and drive your foot into your shin. So essentially, you're pulling both of these parts towards one another. And you'll know that you're doing this movement correctly if it starts to light up your shin. Now, for those of you who have upper cross syndrome or forward shoulder, then the stick dislocates, being shown right here, is a great and efficient way to open up your chest and shoulders, all while creating controlled mobility of that shoulder and scapula. Now you're going to begin by pulling the stick apart to activate the posterior shoulder complex. And then you're going to lift the stick above and beyond your head as you continue to create tension by pulling outward on the stick. When doing these, do each rep slow and controlled while maintaining straight arms and also maintaining fully wrapped fingers around the stick. By the way, the stick that I'm using is a mobility stick from Stick Mobility. And if you're interested in getting a stick of your own, then click the link in the description and you'll be redirected to stickmobility.com, where you can see the mobility sticks that they have available for you. And lastly is my go-to dynamic movement that I always have to do before every workout, and that is the lizard with rotation. And some people call it the world's greatest stretch, but what we'll be doing with it is greatly superior in regards to activating your central nervous system. And to begin, I'm going to be in a high plank position, and then I'm going to drive my foot to the side of my hands. Next, I'm going to drive my elbow that is closest to my front leg down to the floor, all while keeping the opposite arm straight as can be. And then from there, I'm going to apply rotation of the upper body as I reach far behind as I can. You're going to want to keep tension in the glute of the trail leg that is behind you. Essentially, you're flexing that glute as hard as you can in order to create that activation. And the next point of tension is the rear delt when reaching back. You want to reach back as hard and as far as you can, and you're going to feel the back of your shoulder light up right there. And then the last point of activation is the arm that is making contact with the floor. You're going to want to drive that arm into the floor, again, while maintaining a straight arm. So, quick recap. You're going to want to create tension in the glute of the trail leg that is behind you. You're going to want to create tension in the rear delt when reaching, and you should also drive your hand into the floor when doing so. And that right there, my friends, is my complete pre-workout mobility priming routine that I do prior to every single workout. Whether it be a full body workout day where I'm doing squats, deadlifts, bench pressing, overhead pressing, all those things, farmer carries, whatever it may be, or maybe I'm playing with a steel mace, or maybe I'm doing some animal flow being shown right here, you can be well assured that I'm always doing my mobility. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you found this video useful in any way, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Also, if you're interested in learning more about mobility or finding the right mobility routine for yourself, then check out the programs MAPS Prime and MAPS Prime Pro, available at mindpumpmedia.com, and use the discount code HOLISTICHIPSTER to receive 10% off of any of the MAPS programs. And also, if you'd like to purchase a stick, such as the one used in the video, then check out the mobility sticks available at stickmobility.com. And again, you can use the discount code HOLISTICHIPSTER to receive 10% off of any of the sticks that they have available there. And lastly, if you have any questions about the video or any questions in general, just drop a comment down below in the comment section, and I'll be more than happy to answer those for you. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you all next time.